You know, in the world of MMA, there are some dream fights that just stay dreams. And today, we're diving into maybe the biggest what if of them all, the absolutely mythical matchup between a prime Conor McGregor and a prime Tony Ferguson. We're talking two champions, two insane winning streaks, and two styles that were destined to clash, but somehow, frustratingly, never did. So, the big question is, does this fight really deserve that title, the greatest fight that never happened? Well, that's exactly what we're going to try and figure out. We are going to break down this legendary collision of styles and really try to analyze what would have happened if these two lightweight kings actually met at the absolute peak of their powers. Okay, so at its core, this fight is just a beautiful clash of philosophies. The best way to think about it is like this. It's the ultimate showdown between a precise, patient sniper and a relentless, unstoppable zombie. One guy is looking for that single, perfect, lights-out shot, while the other guy just keeps marching forward, eating damage, and creating absolute chaos. And when you look at their striking, man, they could not be more different. On one side, you've got McGregor's left hand, which is just surgical. It's all about timing, precision, and that one-punch power that we all know so well. And on the other side, you've got Tony Ferguson's special brand of madness, just a storm of punches, kicks, and those slicing elbows coming from every weird angle imaginable. It's pure, beautiful chaos. But here, this might be the single most important piece of the entire puzzle: cardio. I mean, we all know it was McGregor's biggest weakness, right? He was an absolute monster for 2 rounds, but he had a tendency to gas out if he couldn't get that early finish. Tony Ferguson, though, he was the complete opposite. A legit cardio machine with a gas tank that just never, ever ran out. The guy famously got stronger as the fight went deep. Okay, so what about taking a punch? Well, honestly, McGregor had a really underrated chin. The guy could take a shot. But Tony's durability, that was something else entirely. It was legendary. He had an iron chin and was more than willing to walk through fire to eat 3 shots just to land one of his own. I mean, the guy would get dropped in fights and just bounce right back up. It was wild. So when you put it all together, you get this really fascinating tale of the tape. McGregor, no question, has the edge in pure striking power and precision. But look at Ferguson. He's got the check marks in pressure, in cardio, and for sure in grappling. You can't forget about his submission game, especially those nasty Darcy chokes. It's a real story of opposites across the board. All right, so let's try and picture this fight. Let's run the simulation. The analysis is pretty clear on this. Those first 10 minutes, rounds 1 and 2, are overwhelmingly in Conor McGregor's favor. This is his window. This is his chance to win, and it is an incredibly dangerous time for Tony Ferguson. And this timeline right here, it basically tells the entire story of the fight. The whole thing hinges on that first phase, rounds 1 and 2. This is where the sniper, Conor McGregor, has his best, and maybe his only chance to land that perfect shot before the zombie really gets warmed up. For McGregor, the game plan is simple, and it's deadly. He has to exploit Tony's tendency to be a slow starter. We've seen Ferguson get hit, and get hit hard, early in his fights. So Conor would use his incredible timing and that laser beam left hand to catch Tony as he's wading in. A clean counter in those opening minutes, that could easily be the end of the fight right then and there. But, and this is the huge question, what if McGregor's storm doesn't land? What if the zombie just keeps walking forward? Well, that's when we enter the deep, dark waters. And this is where the entire fight is going to change. Looking back at our timeline, you can see that momentum starts to shift, and it shifts dramatically once we push past those first 2 rounds. If Tony can just weather that early onslaught, the whole dynamic of the fight completely flips. The McGregor window slams shut, and the Ferguson takeover begins. So how does that happen? Well, first, it's Tony's pressure. It's relentless, it's chaotic, and it would start to wear McGregor down, forcing him into a pace he just can't keep. Then, as Conor starts to fade, Tony's endless cardio lets him get stronger. It creates this incredibly dangerous situation, kind of like we saw in the first Nate Diaz fight, right? Where suddenly the submission threat becomes very, very real against a gassed opponent. Okay, so we've looked at the styles, we've broken down the attributes, and we've walked through the story of the fight. Now it's time for the final verdict, based on what the analysis tells us about this incredible prime-for-prime collision. So here it is. While an early McGregor knockout is a very, very real possibility, you can never count out that left hand, the most likely outcome is that Tony Ferguson's insane durability and that suffocating pace would just be too much. He'd survive the early storm, drag McGregor into deep water, and yeah, He'd likely finish him somewhere in those later championship rounds.
Man, it really was the perfect clash of styles at the perfect time, wasn't it? The sniper versus the zombie, precision versus pressure. Both men at the absolute peak of their powers, on historic win streaks. It just leaves us with one final question to think about.